Thank you, Chair. I'd like to first say a few words about enrollment. As I had foreshadowed, the official numbers do indicate that we had a decline in enrollment, in headcount enrollment on most of our campuses, and I want to unpack that a little bit. It gets reported in different ways by different media. Sometimes words like edged down, sometimes spiraling down carry very different connotations. So the reality is actually pretty complex. Usually I like to sugarcoat things, but let me start with the weaknesses. The two things that I'm most concerned about are we need to up our game in recruiting local students graduating from local high schools. That's a group that needs higher education, and we need to find ways to get more of, especially our public high school graduates, into higher education. And we are the best choice for most of those who are not attending college. The incredibly hot labor market doesn't help with that, but we still need to do better. We also need to do better at getting transfers from our community colleges into our four-year universities. UH-Hilo actually had an uptick in those this year, but we need to do it across the state. And again, that's an area where we're competing against the local labor markets for people who are ready to get out into the job spot. But we do have a number of bright spots that we've uncovered when we really dig in. So let me just highlight a few of them. This is the second year in a row that we have an increase in classified graduate students. That's at a combination of Manoa and Hilo, where we have graduate programs. So that's turned around now after many years of decline. At Manoa, we have an increase in international students, so we're quite happy about that. And while the overall head count is down, our entering class was over 2,000 for just the second time in the last decade. Last year was our record for the largest entering class ever. So we were a little behind it, but ahead of where we've been for 10 years. West Oahu is very pleased. They've been working on their retention rates, and they've seen improvements there. UH-Hilo has an increase in first-time freshmen, so that sweet spot of getting more local kids into college is making a difference there. And they also, as I mentioned, had an increase in incoming transfers, and that's all hard work. None of that is a coincidence. The community colleges, while the enrollment is down, they are still above the pre-recession levels, so they're still they experienced the largest peak during the recession, adding close to 10,000 new students. That's most of what has been lost over these last years. They have more first-time new 26 to 44-year-olds, interestingly, when we look at age, than ever before, over 2,300 of them, which is a very large increase. And that's a group we've been aiming at with our returning adult program to help upskill adults for better jobs within the community. And again, that's quite intentional, looking at people who are employed, who are caregivers, and one of our flagship programs there is our online AA program, which is at capacity once again. Average age of those students is 36. So we're reaching out to students who we had not been getting to with our conventional programs. So hot off the press, the official system retention numbers will be out Monday, but we can already see there was a substantial improvement in fall-to-fall retention for most of our campuses. This is critical because every time we lose one after their freshman year, that's a student that we actively recruited, but we never get to over the finish line. Among the many increases, and I mentioned West Oahu, it looks right now like Manoa surpassed 80%, which would be the highest in its history, which is great news, and we still have to keep going. Graduation rates are up, so that works against us on our headcount enrollment. And this is pretty interesting. Vice President Young is probably somewhere in the back there, but in spite of a decreased headcount, our revenue is up. So that has to do with how many credits people are taking, what programs they're enrolled in, graduate, undergraduate, resident, non-resident, WUI, and all of these categories that impact revenue in a much more sophisticated manner than just headcount enrollment. So that's good news, but we also want to keep serving more people. Some of our priorities include leveraging early college better. Our numbers continue to go up, which is great. We think we can be more intentional by creating pathways into academic programs, so from the high school, particularly working with the academies. We want to be recruiting more actively, especially from our community colleges. We have a lot we can learn about how to deploy and market the Hawaii Promise program after only 2 years in the community colleges. We're working with consultants who are helping us understand the state of the art in recruiting and enrollment management, so we don't have to make all the mistakes that have been made across the country. And creating more programs that attract students. Manoa is working on a sustainability program through interdisciplinary studies, which we know our students want to get a degree in sustainability, and we've got ideas on an online transfer center that we think we can use to help move students throughout the system. We'll be sharing more of this over time, but I wanted you to understand that just because head count enrollment did not increase as we had hoped, the Titanic is turning, lots of work is underway, and the financial picture isn't as grim as you might believe from just looking at the superficial headcount numbers.